Hello and welcome to the Free Yourself from Heartbreak interview series. I am your host, Rebecca Boatman, and today I am honored to bring you Lisa Shields. Now get this, 17 years ago, when no one would admit to dating online, Lisa created her first profile. 2 years and 100 first dates later, she met and married the love of her life. Her success led her to become one of the first dating and relationship coaches in the nation. Through writing, speaking, leading workshops, and one-on-one coaching, Lisa has helped thousands of singles around the world to finding loving, lasting relationships. She is a sought-after relationship expert and has been featured on Bravo's The Millionaire Matchmaker, the ABC News, and quoted in places like Cosmo, Playboy, and the LA Times. Her studies include a master's in spiritual psychology, certification in life and relationship coaching from the Coaches Training Institute, and one-on-one training with Don Miguel Ruiz, author of The Four Agreements. I love that book. If you haven't read it, read it. Lisa is an expert in helping couples and singles use their emotional nakedness to attract and keep a life partner. She lives in LA with her husband and best friend Benjamin and their two dogs, Milo and Owen. Hello, Lisa, and welcome.
Hi, Rebecca. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, of course. So I would like to dive right in by just, I read about your naked dating course and how it shows, people the search for love that can be a heroic journey, where you discover how to keep your clothes on and use your emotional nakedness to attract a life partner. And that's amazing. And I would love for you to expand on that. And I saw one of the bullets was how to date meaningfully. So I would love for you to also share that with the audience, because people are going to, eventually, maybe tomorrow, maybe a month from now, or going to want to get out there and start dating again. I know that's what you're amazing at. So I would love for you to elaborate on naked dating and and the dating meaningful piece.
Oh, awesome. So I know that this is people coming out of breakups, right? Like that's sort of who our audience today is. So I want to take that into account, that you got to give yourself time to heal, of course, and not just jump back into dating, especially if you've been a serial dater or a serial monogamous. Sorry. You've got to give yourself a chance to heal and really assess what you've been doing that hasn't worked, because the last thing you want to do is just rush out and start dating again and not have this figured out, because you may wind up very easily attracting the same people. So having said that, naked dating is really a journey about looking at dating as a spiritual path. And I woke up when I was getting back out there and starting to date. I was 39 years old, and I had an epiphany. I was doing so many different workshops and working with different teachers and all of this stuff. And after I left my first husband, so for about 8 years, I was just doing one thing after another. I got my master's in spiritual psychology. I worked with Don Miguel Ruiz. I mean, anything and everything. I did Landmark Forum, but anything that sounded interesting, I was doing. And my epiphany was, one day I was about to turn 39, and I realized that all spiritual paths lead to God or unconditional love. At least that was my belief. But then I said, wow, they're not just talking about unconditional love or God, they're talking about the fact that we can do this now. And they're giving us all the steps to be able to do that. And so I was like, oh my God, they're not saying I have to reincarnate 1,000 times to become some ascended master, right? Like, I can do this now. I could find unconditional love in this lifetime. And I was just like, I got to do this. Like, if that's real and that's really possible, I am going to go out there. I am going to take all these spiritual tools I'm learning, and I'm going to find this person. I'm going to find this thing. And so naked dating really approaches dating as a spiritual path.
Mm-hmm.
And Rebecca, this was so cool because when I went on dates, and I see this with so many women, when I went on dates, and this is the meaningful part that you were asking about,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't sit across from men and ask, well, does he fit my list? Right? I didn't sit there and think, is this guy, does he have this? And does he make enough money? And does he have that?
Mm-hmm.
I sat across from these men and I asked myself, could I accept this person exactly the way he is?
Mm-hmm.
Because I wanted someone to do that for me.
Yeah.
And I figured in the spiritual world, you have, everything works in reverse. So
Mm-hmm.
before I could get somebody to do that for me, I had to be willing to first do that for him. I had to be willing to accept him wholly and completely the way he was before I could ask him to do that for me. And so I went on almost 100 first dates. And I sat across from all these guys. And when I looked at, they were lovely people. I'm not criticizing any of them, but they weren't my guy. And I wound up finding the love of my life. I've had 15 years with my husband, and it's been remarkable. And so naked dating shows you how to get out and really use dating as a transformational journey, and to go on each date with an open heart and an open mind, and to keep looking at your own judgments, your own fears, your own blocks, and to keep letting that stuff come up. And then having my tools, which I give you in my naked dating course, you let that stuff come up so that you can look at it and process it and let it go. And when you do that, by the time you find the one, you will have worked through so much of your stuff that you will be traveling really light along this journey, along that spiritual path. And by the time you meet this person, you will step into a relationship unlike anything you've ever known. So that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of naked dating.
I love that. I love that. Wow. That's so powerful, Lisa. And one thing that you said that really caught my attention when you said everything in the spiritual world works in reverse. And how
Mm-hmm.
you have to be willing to accept that person as is and love them unconditionally because you want them to do the same. And one question that I have for you is, do you believe that someone needs to do that for themselves, like me with me, Lisa with Lisa, like Sarah with Sarah, before then opening themselves up to going out and dating? What are your thoughts on that? And you can totally
That's
elaborate.
an absolutely wonderful question. And I couldn't agree more. I think that's the period where many of your listeners are in, the part of the journey that many of your people are in.
Mm-hmm.
You may have just gotten out of a bad breakup. You may, some of the people listening here may have gone through something very traumatic and had their heart broken. Maybe you trusted somebody and they betrayed you. A lot of times when people come out of breakups, the thing that they do, they're very hard on themselves. They beat themselves up. And one of the things we look at in naked dating is, how can you face rejection without rejecting yourself? How can you look at what happened and say, hey, my partner cheated on me. I have one client whose partner had a whole separate life. She got married and they were only married for a matter of months, and then she discovered her partner had another woman and a life and a dog. And how do you go through that stuff and come away and not not blame yourself somehow? And so for me, one of the journeys, again, back to spiritual tools, one of the things that I believe and that has been so useful in my own personal life and in the lives of people that I work with is, I fully believe that life in general, but dating in particular, is really a process of letting go.
Mm-hmm.
It is a process of constantly letting go of belief systems, letting go of fears, letting go of self-judgment, letting go of judgment of others. And all of these experiences, I believe, come in, we attract these opportunities because they are teaching us in some way or other how to let go.
Mm.
So you're smiling.
It's landing.
What are you thinking over there, Rebecca? Tell me your thoughts.
Well, it's landing because it reminds me of a period that, I went through where I thought that I was stronger and more, independent, whatever you want to call it, for choosing to just not really date and do life on my own. And then, and it was a facade. It was so far from the truth when, it actually came down to dating, it felt more vulnerable and, gave me the opportunity to work through blocks and fears, but it was, I wasn't aware of it. Right. So I love that you're saying it's a process. I mean, I've just never heard it, Lisa, in a way that you're putting it. And it's absolutely, absolutely beautiful how it really is an opportunity as we're putting ourselves out there to recognize, okay, what are we making certain things mean? And what are we, taking on that we don't, what have we been holding on to that we don't need to be holding on to? And it really is an opportunity process. So the way that you framed it is like, it's gold.
Yeah, thank you. And what's coming up as you're talking, Rebecca, is one of my clients who was dating. She was, I really want everybody to know, I don't care what shape, size, color, age, whatever you are. This is not easy for many, many, many people. And this particular client was one of the most gorgeous women I have ever laid eyes on. She was breathtakingly beautiful. In our first session, I was so stunned by her beauty that I couldn't even, I had to concentrate just to work with her. She recently got married, but the piece that I was going to share was, and from a wealthy family, I mean, she had everything, right? Everything. So, if being attractive is just about youth and looks and beauty and money, all the celebrities and the beautiful people would have the best relationships, and that's not true. So here was this gorgeous, sweet woman, and her father had been a womanizer. Her dad had cheated, and her biggest fear was he would attract somebody who would do the same thing that her dad had done to her mom. And sure enough, she went out and met a man, and he ticked all the boxes, checked every box, came from a wealthy family, grew up just like her, everything. She had never felt such, synergy with another person. And turned out he was cheating on her from day one. And the reason I share this is because we do tend to attract, I'm talking about letting go. She had this incredible fear of attracting this. And what happened? She's now attracted it. So for me, I think the universe was helping her release her fears, helping her grow past this fear, because once she was able to face it, it was devastating for her. But once she was able to face it and get through it and release any judgment or blame, in her own heart, she wound up finding this was the most incredible story. She was describing to a group of her friends at a dinner all the work that she and I had done together. And she was talking about the kind of man she wanted to attract. And one of her friends was sitting and listening. And he he heard what she was saying. And they had been friends literally since birth. Their parents were friends. Their fathers were friends. She had known him all her life. And he heard her describing what she was looking for in a man. And he thought, oh my God, she's describing me. Isn't that the best story?
Yeah, I have chills. It's so romantic.
So I went to their wedding, and I got to tell you, it was like the wedding of the century. It was magnificent. Chicago catered it. I mean, it was just like the most amazing wedding. It was a fairy tale. But yeah, so she had to let go of that fear in order to just completely open herself up to love. Because in order to have the kind of love that most people are looking for, you guys, you have to be fearless. You have to truly open up yourself wholly and completely to this thing. You can't play it safe. You
Mm-hmm.
can't like walk the safe line. If you know, this is, if you're looking for a soulmate and a lifelong love and something that's like the kind of thing that is written about in storybooks,
Yeah. Yeah.
you don't get that by playing it safe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So naked dating is not safe date. I mean, it is, you know, you do it in a safe way,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't play it safe and have the thing, that kind of passionate, amazing, lifelong love that I think people long for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. I love that. I love hearing that story about their amazing wedding. And one question that I'm thinking that viewers might have is if, and I love the story that you gave, how sometimes they're like, people are divine assignments. We end up learning things from certain people that come into our lives. Sometimes we don't know what that is yet, and then we do. And then with her story, it was like she experienced her fear, was then able to let go of it and find the love of her life. Now, does that mean that, because we all have fears, does that mean that we have to actually experience our fear firsthand in order to let go of it?
I don't, I think that that's, yes, I think that that's really how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So we have most, you know, what holds people back, what slows the process down is that people move slowly. They're afraid. They're scared to get out on that bridge, you know, that they're scared. So, you know, I have this analogy that's part of my course, but it's called The Nature of the Bridge. And I once did one of those stupid like ropes courses, which I am not a fan of. I do not, you know, I get my I get my excitement in other ways. I can get emotionally naked like nobody's business.
Yeah.
This is not my thing. And somehow I was doing a leadership course and I didn't realize it was part of the course. So I had to walk across a suspension bridge with no handrails. It was two ropes hung like strung between two redwood trees, you know, I don't know, 30 feet off the ground. It was horrifying. And I was terrified to get out on this bridge. And so I sat down and I meditated because I was so frightened. And I was trying to breathe and just get in my body. And this voice like spoke to me. It was the weirdest thing, but the voice said, the nature of the bridge is to shake. Expect it to shake. It will shake. And when I sat up, I said, "Oh my God, I get it. I totally figured it out." And what I realized was that to get from one point to another, right, you can't fight the nature of something. You cannot go against the truth. So if I had tried to fight the bridge every time it shook, I would have gotten scared and I would have fallen. But if I knew the bridge was going to shake, if I knew I was going to have to face my fears, I could stay calm and I could take each step. The bridge shook and then I got across and I was able to get across. It's the same with dating. The nature of dating is to face rejection. That is how we learn to let go of our ego. You've got to face the fact that some people are not going to be right for you. They're not emotionally ready for you. You know, they're going to cheat on you. You are capable of attracting the same things anybody else is. This gorgeous, absolutely stunning woman got cheated on. I mean, she wasn't enough, you know, or I mean, she felt like if she, like, you know, here's Beyonce. Come on. Like, Beyonce got cheated on, right?
Yeah.
You got to be able to get out there and face this stuff. But people are so afraid to get out and date and face their fears. And here's the deal. The faster you rip off that Band-Aid, the more you have the right tools, the right love, the right support, the right coach, the right therapist, you know, and you can't get this just from reading books.
Yeah. Yeah. I
You
agree.
know, you need support. You need people who have
Community.
but people who have done this, who know how to get you from point A to point Z faster, and so that they can help you navigate this stuff. But yes, you have to get out there and face it. And if you're just by nature of being afraid to face it, that's where you're stopping yourself.
Mm. Oh, wow. I love that. I love that. And it's so interesting because when you're talking, I think about how there's people who have been cheated on, maybe people who are listening, and that's why you're going through a breakup, and we feel for you. And I love what you're saying. It's not the time to, obviously there's time to do healing and personal work. And it's also, I guess, not the time to, what would the right word be? Like take it. I mean, I'm trying to think the right words. When you say, you got to get back out there, like it's never something where you don't want to ever not go back out there again, because people do that, right? Like something bad happens and the rest of their lives they just don't go out and date, and then they're by themselves for forever. So I love that you're touching on the fact that it can happen to anyone, and it's just, that's what it is. You're like, this is what it is, just accepting what is rather than arguing what
Right.
is.
You have to accept what is.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to be willing. I don't know what's in front of your path. I don't
Yeah.
know what you're afraid of. I don't know what your fears are.
Mm-hmm.
I was afraid that a man, who I felt was on my level wouldn't pick me. If he had a lot of money, he picked somebody younger or prettier or thinner. I had to face that fear.
Mm-hmm.
I went out because I had supported most of my former partners. I had supported them financially, and it didn't work. And I said, I'm not going to do that again this time. So I went out and I dated men who made at least as much as I did, not because I'm looking for someone to support me. I just wanted them to support themselves. I wanted a man who could just play at my level.
Yeah.
But I wound up, it was scary at first,
Mm-hmm.
because I felt intimidated by these men. It wasn't because they weren't into me. It was because I was intimidated by them.
Mm-hmm.
And I met a man who was he was the, I dated a lot of men. I dated a producer. I dated a director. He had tons of money, but he fell asleep at the table at dinner. He was so old.
I love you.
He wanted to date me. He really liked me.
Yeah.
I couldn't handle. I mean, it was just like, we're at dinner and he's like nodding off. And I don't think it was because I'm boring, because I'm anything but boring. A million things that I am. I'm not boring. But yeah, he fell asleep. Like he was like dozing off. I was like, okay, you got the money, dude. But I had to face my fears. I also picked men who weren't, who I didn't feel were as intelligent as me. And I purposely did that because that was my comfort zone. It made me feel safe and superior. And I felt like I had the upper hand. And it's very humbling to be in a relationship like with my husband, who is like, in 1,000 lifetimes, I'll never be as evolved as this man is. He's amazing, amazing. He's just amazing, but that was one of my other criteria. I have a process that I do with people. It's like a 5-step process where you come up with what I call your final 5. And it walks people through this really incredible process of looking at what their patterns are, breaking the patterns, and then looking at what they want to attract going forward, how to break those patterns. So I had 5 things that I had to have in a partner, and one of them was my partner had to be my greatest teacher.
I
found it.
And I found it.
Yeah, you want to hear this? He even wrote one of the books we read when I was getting my master's course.
Oh, wow.
Psychology. Yeah, I read one of his books like a month and a half or 2 months before I actually met him.
Oh,
it's amazing.
Oh, wow. I love that. I love that you said, you would date people that were safe, and then you decided to, go beyond that, and within that, did you notice as you decide to go outside of your comfort zone? I don't know why I feel called to ask you this, I just do, but when you were on those dates, did you ever, when you were checking in with yourself, did you ever have like physical responses where you're like, oh, this is kind of uncomfortable, like this is me stretching, like, okay, I'm breaking past my fears, I'm facing it, like, just because I think, those are good indicators. I would love if you can relate to that, what you would say those indicators can be, just so the audience can relate to when they're choosing to deal with heartbreak and then go out and love again.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many, I think it's all our fear that's blocking us from having what we want. And here's what you guys have to get, and I'll talk about some of the indicators. But if you can't face your fears, every fear that you have about whether you're worthy or unworthy or anything, it's that stuff is what's preventing you from receiving the love that you want. It's you. It's really your stuff. So yeah, I consciously, intentionally went out and dated and sat across from these men. And here's the thing, Rebecca, what I did was to really deal with a lot of those things that you're talking about. I dated sober. I
Mm.
dated sober. I decided not to drink because
Mm.
drinking had been a huge, huge barrier for me. And
Mm.
I wanted to be present to what was going on. I wanted to stay present and conscious. And I didn't want to have to use alcohol or any kind of substance or anything to create an artificial connection with a man. So
Mhm.
getting emotionally naked with me was really this very real, authentic process of sitting with my own emotions, and it started with me. So yes, I would get very scared and I would feel, mostly I carry a lot of anxiety in my stomach, like in
Mhm.
my gut. I don't, everybody carries it in different places. Some people, if you think of the chakras, I don't know if your audience knows what the chakras are, but there are 7 energy centers in your body that
Mhm.
start at your pelvis and go all the way up to your crown chakra. And
Mhm.
your energy can be blocked in any one of those places.
Mhm.
So a great thing to do is to go online and find a chakra meditation and practice kind of bringing a golden ball of light or a thread or cord, golden cord, but pulling it up through each of the 7 chakra centers to be able to clear your energy all the way through through your core.
Mhm.
So that's a wonderful thing to do, to kind of just keep your energy flowing and notice as you pull that ball of energy or that ball of light up where it feels blocked. If you sit and you bring it up to each spot. So that was something that I did a lot to keep
Mhm.
my energy flowing, but mine was always in my gut.
Mm.
That's where I really tense up and get, and there's another Buddhist thing where, if you're sitting and you're feeling, I have 2 other techniques that I use for this, but one is a Buddhist technique where you soften your belly. You literally just, we tend to hold our stomachs in.
Mhm.
And if you think about Buddha and stuff, he kind of had that big belly. But when
Mhm.
you release the energy, when you really intentionally soften your belly, you
Mhm.
immediately feel your whole body soften. A
Mm.
second technique is one that I call going from a closed fist to an open hand.
Mm. Mhm.
And so if you're sitting on a date and you feel very tense and you feel anxious or nervous, you can literally make a fist under the table and then very slowly just let the energy in your hand release.
Mm.
And you can feel how the energy in your heart will release at the same time. It'll
Mm.
help open up your heart. So if you're feeling nervous, just make a fist and then very slowly just open that up to sort of shift your energy.
Mm, mm. Thank you for sharing those. Those are great tangible tools that as people go out and as you guys are dating that you can like take these with you. And I completely relate. I would usually it's my jaw, like I'll tense up here
Mhm.
and then I'm like, whoa, and I gotta relax. It's like,
Uh-huh.
we all have our funny indicators. And I have one more question for you, and then I would love for you to share your free gift with the audience. And that is how do you, and I saw this that you had mentioned it within naked dating. How do you stay inspired? So you went on 100 first dates, like
Yes.
amazing. So how do you stay inspired, right? Because I know that people, they'll have momentum and then they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so over this, right? And then they'll either drop off completely or give themselves breaks. Or I just would love to know, like 100 dates, like wow, first of all, like kudos. And how did you stay inspired during that process?
So let me tell you, that's another really, really good question. when I started this journey, I decided that quitting wasn't an option. That was the first thing I told myself. I imagined a road and I saw myself at one end and my future soulmate at the other. And I imagined that all along the road, every single man I encountered along the dating path had some piece of the puzzle to give me, to get me from where I was to where I was going. And I just, so I imagined that each person was teaching me something, even if I didn't know exactly what he was teaching me, and I didn't have to make up a story. Some lessons were very obvious, some were not, but I could feel myself releasing and expanding. And I visualized that road getting wider. Like many, many people, when they date, the road gets narrower. They get more afraid, they get more restricted, they shut down, they have more judgments, their heart closes up. I wanted, as I dated, I wanted my road to get wider. I wanted to become more loving, more compassionate, more open-hearted, kinder, more patient. So I was looking to become more lighter, more playful, more of everything. And I had one of my techniques that I work with my clients on within the course is that I have processes that we do where you have your frenemy on one side and your naked dater on the other. And you start to develop a real relationship with your naked dater, which is representative of your higher self or your inner wisdom. And we do meditations, we do writing, we do all kinds of processes where we dialogue with the naked dater and we start to develop this voice so that you have your own personal guide journey that you can always go to, and in meditation or through a handwriting technique that I give my clients. So I give people very practical tools in order to process. And I just stayed out there. I figured, there's somebody out there for everyone. I believed in my heart of hearts that there was someone out there for me, and I refused to stop until I found him. And so I became a positive spin doctor. I put a positive spin on everything. I just made up positive little stories. Like if somebody, ghosted me on a date, I would, instead of making up a negative story, which is what many people do, I would make up a funny story and I would be like, well, maybe he was getting out of the shower and he slipped and he broke his toe and he had to go to the emergency. I mean, I don't know what happened. I don't know. Or maybe some pygmies came and kidnapped him and took him away, or he got abducted by space aliens and he's on a ship somewhere to some foreign land. I mean, I don't know, but I would make up a funny story and I would, it's all, life is a story we're telling ourselves, so you might as well make it good. And I would wish them well, and I would say I'm one step closer to my guy. So I just learned how not to let any of it. And my work with Don Miguel Ruiz taught me how to not to take things personally. So that's how I did it.
I love that. I love that. So powerful. Not that piece of not taking things personally. Once we learn that, when we start looking at like things like prior, it's like, whoa, how people will sometimes automatically just so unconsciously do that. And
yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you for, being the inspiration, going out there and dating. So, now you've created this beautiful life and you're such an amazing example. And I'm sure the audience is dying to hear what free gift they get to have from you.
Yeah. So I have two things that I want to tell your audience about. So the first one is I have an amazing Facebook group. It's called Dating Without Drama, and there's a little over 4,000 people in it. And it is just phenomenal. There are men and women in the group. They share about everything dating related. And there are so many people in the group who find people They get love and support. Everything is supposed to be positive and loving and inside, so people actually make friends in the group. Some people
Oh.
in the group are dating,
Mhm.
but it is really a miracle, this group. And then the second thing, so if you want to join that, you
Mhm.
need to search on Facebook, Dating Without Drama, and then apply. And
Mhm.
there are 3 questions. And when you answer the questions, please make a note. I heard Rebecca's interview or your interview with Rebecca, and I'd like to join your group. But please specify that, because I carefully select who gets in, and
Mhm.
I would really hate not to, to miss somebody here,
Mhm.
because I want to let all of you guys in. So please let me
Mhm.
know that. And then the second thing is, I have a webinar, a fabulous, life-changing webinar that talks about the 5 shifts that you have to make in order to find the one. It is so illuminating and people really love it. And so we'll put the link to that at the
Mhm.
bottom of
Yeah.
the, so you can watch my webinar and you can join the group. And please, reach out to me if you'd like. I would love to get to know you all. And I just thank you for listening. It's been a real pleasure.
Oh, of course. Thank you so much, Lisa. You gave away so many gold nuggets, and everyone watching, the links are right below here for the Facebook group and for the webinar, so they can have quick access to you. And thank you again so much.
Ah, thank you for having me. And
Oh.
don't give up. Do not give up. I was married to a pathological liar for 13 years, and I am
Mm.
now married to a man. I just want to share this.
Yeah, please.
In his JDate profile, where there was a question, and it said, "What is your ideal relationship?" And Benjamin wrote, "My ideal relationship is that we will be guardians of each other's souls."
Oh.
So there are amazing men out there, and there's an amazing man for every single one of you. So
Mm.
don't stop trying. Don't give up on love.
Mm. Thank you so much,
You're
Lisa.
welcome, Rebecca. Thank you.
Yeah.